Hello everybody, welcome to Fighting Off Boredom, where we're going to try and review different things just to keep ourselves occupied for a little while. One of my favorite things to do, especially if you don't feel like leaving the house or it's really cold out, is obviously reading. Reading is probably one of the largest hobbies in the world at this point. There's so many books to choose from, and there's pretty much something for everybody at this point. But the most recent thing that I read is going to be this book here. This is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. So she does have a little bit of her autobiography back here and all of that good stuff. At least the version of the book that I got, the hardback version. I'm sure the softback doesn't have that. But obviously this book here, I just checked it out of the library. Very pretty cover is what initially drew me to it, which brings me into one of my first thoughts about the book was that obviously from this cover, this is a very bright, peppy, almost looking book where I expected a lot more, I'm going to say parties out of it, you know, a lot more banquets, maybe things like that, dances, given by the title as well. But the book tended to turn more into, I'm going to say like a horror cottagecore almost type thing, where it's very nature. Now, Gothic isn't quite the Gothic that I'd expect when I was looking at a book like this. It was definitely more set in the 50s, in the 1950s, which was very difficult for me to figure out in this book. It took a very long time for me to figure out when it was supposed to be set. And the only clue I had was a specific kind of car that she was driving at the time. But I did eventually figure it out. Maybe that's my fault. Maybe there's something obvious that I looked over on this. But the book very quickly turned into more of a Victorian Gothic than it did a Mexican Gothic. When I read the title, like I said, I was expecting something more along the lines of quinceañeras or warm weather. Specifically, it was really cold out when I read this, so I was expecting something hot, like in the beach or things like that. But it very quickly turned into being up in the mountains, very cold, very foggy, all the time. But the book was a very fun read, though. It's unexpected. It wasn't what I was expecting, but I really did enjoy the thing. I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10 or so. I wish she'd been a little bit more clear about the time period. The main character was a very materialistic girl, very upbeat. She wanted to go to parties and all of that, hence probably the cover of why it looks like this. However, that lasted all of 10 pages before it turned into something a lot more, like I said, a little bit darker, a little gloomy, real foggy aesthetic to it. That it was talking moldy aesthetic, that it was talking about the whole time. And while I don't want to put too many spoilers into the book or anything like that, but you have the main character. She gets a letter very rapidly from her cousin. The cousin was a very good friend of hers. The cousin disappeared about a year or two prior. The cousin, she had basically a shotgun marriage to a family that obviously was not Mexican. The family was British, and they had just settled down in Mexico in a mine. But the letter the cousin had sent our main character was that she started seeing things in the walls. She was hearing things at night. She was losing her memories. And because they didn't really know the family very well, like I said, it was a shotgun marriage, the cousin decided she was going to go investigate. Our main character decided to go investigate to see if she could find the cousin and see what was going on. But as she travels to this house, she gets wrapped up in a lot of its paranormal activity and things like this, and as she tries to navigate her way through it. But overall, very fun. I'd recommend it. It definitely has adult themes to it, where I probably wouldn't give this to your 10-year-old or your 12-year-old, but teenagers and up should be fine. But overall, I enjoyed it. It's worth reading. I'd go out for it.